The gentle rays of dawn filtered through the thin curtains, lighting up the modest living room. The scent of tea drifted through the air as Salma, a 45-year-old widow, arranged breakfast on the table. Her hands were rough, her back slightly bent, but her eyes carried a quiet strength, the kind of strength that only mothers who have suffered and sacrificed truly know. Life had not been easy. When her husband died suddenly in a car accident, Salma had been left with a 10-year-old son and a heart full of fear. The world seemed cruel and uncertain, yet she had one purpose: to give her son, Amir, a better life. She worked tirelessly, sewing clothes, tutoring children, skipping meals when money ran short. Every rupee she saved went into Amir's education. When he finally graduated and found a good job, she felt her heart swell with pride. Her sacrifices had meant something. "Ami," Amir said one evening, excitement shining in his eyes, "I've found a house. It's small, but it's perfect for us. We can finally live comfortably." Salma smiled through tears. "Then we'll make it our home, Beta." She sold her gold bangles, the last memory of her wedding, and even her small piece of land to help him buy that house. The bank insisted it be registered in her name, since she was providing most of the funds. To Salma, that didn't matter. A mother doesn't own her son's happiness, she only builds it. A few years later, Amir married Sarah, a pretty young woman from a well-off family. When Salma met her for the first time, she felt pure joy. Finally, she said warmly, "I have a daughter." She cooked Sarah's favorite dishes, helped decorate their room, and even stayed up late to make sure Sarah felt at home. At first, Sarah was polite, smiling sweetly, calling her Ami and helping her with tea. But soon, small cracks began to show. She frowned when Salma used old steel utensils instead of modern ones. She rolled her eyes when Salma offered to pack lunch for Amir. "Ami," she once said with a forced smile, "you don't have to do these old-fashioned things. We're modern now." Salma just nodded quietly, thinking it was just youthful pride. She told herself it didn't matter. What mattered was that her son was happy. But in the quiet corners of the house, she began to feel like an uninvited guest, tolerated but not truly wanted. Sometimes, when she served dinner, Sarah would glance at her husband and giggle softly, whispering something under her breath. Salma didn't know what it was, but she felt it in her bones, the invisible distance growing between them. Still, every night she prayed. "Ya Allah," she whispered, "keep my son's home peaceful, even if my heart must stay silent." She didn't know then that the silence she kept out of love would soon be shattered by a humiliation so deep. It would awaken a side of her no one had ever seen, calm, clever, and quietly vengeful. Winter morning was soft and pale when Salma heard the faint sound of laughter from Sarah's room. She thought nothing of it at first. Young people laughed all the time, sharing jokes she couldn't understand. But that day the laughter had a strange tone, cruel, sharp, the kind that makes your heart tighten before your mind knows why. Later that afternoon, her neighbor Shazia came by with a worried look. "Salma Baji," she began hesitantly, "have you seen the post your daughter-in-law put online?" Salma frowned, confused. "Post? What post?" Shazia sighed and held out her phone. On the glowing screen was a video of Salma, filmed secretly as she stood in the kitchen making chapati. Her wrinkled hands moved slowly, her scarf tied neatly, her voice humming a soft old tune. But the caption burned like acid. "When your male thinks she's still in the 80s face #old school #funny moments." Beneath it were laughing emojis, mocking comments, and hundreds of shares. "Poor thing looks like a village maid. Imagine living with that. She should learn some style from her DIL." Each word hit Salma like a stone. Her vision blurred as her heart pounded painfully in her chest. Her hands trembled as she returned the phone. "Thank you, Shazia," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I've seen enough." That evening, when Amir came home, She tried to speak calmly. Amir Beta, she said softly. Your wife posted something, it hurt me deeply. She made fun of me. Amir looked up from his phone, barely interested. It's just a joke, Amy. Don't take it so seriously. Sarah didn't mean any harm. Salma stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. A joke? You call humiliating your mother in front of strangers a joke? But Amir only shrugged. You're overreacting. Everyone posts funny things these days. Don't make it into a big drama. The room fell silent. Sarah walked in then, wearing a smug smile, holding her coffee cup like a trophy. Amy, don't be upset, she said sweetly. People loved the video. You looked adorable. The fake kindness, the condescension, it broke something inside Salma that night. She didn't argue, she didn't shout. Instead, she quietly gathered her dignity, folded it like the shawl she wore every evening, and placed it around her wounded heart. When she went to her room, tears flowed freely, not just because she was mocked, but because her son, the boy she raised with love and sacrifice, had chosen silence over respect. The next morning, Sarah posted another picture, this time of the living room, captioned, "Finally redecorating this outdated house. Time to give it a modern touch. Nails. Sparkles, #my home, #new vibes. My home." Salma read those two words again and again. The irony was bitter. The house Sarah bragged about, every wall, every brick, was bought with Salma's sacrifice. And in that moment, between humiliation and heartbreak, a spark of realization lit inside her. She remembered something Sarah and Amir had forgotten. The house wasn't theirs. It was hers, and for the first time in years, she smiled not out of joy, but with the quiet calm of a woman who had finally decided she would no longer be silent. The house felt colder now, not because of the weather, but because warmth had quietly drained from its walls. Salma still performed her daily routines, sweeping the floors, watering the plants, making tea, but her eyes no longer softened when she looked at her son or his wife. She had stopped speaking unnecessarily. Her silence unsettled Sarah, though the young woman pretended not to care. Days turned into weeks. Behind her calm eyes, Salma was thinking. One morning, after Amir and Sarah left for work, she walked to her cupboard and opened a small metal box. Inside were the property papers, yellowed by time but still valid. Her name, Salma Begum, was printed in bold letters across the title deed. She touched it gently, remembering the day she'd signed it, never imagining it would one day become her weapon of dignity. That afternoon, she visited her old friend Rashid, a lawyer who had once helped her late husband. Rashid was surprised to see her after so many years. "Salma Baji," he exclaimed. "It's been so long. What brings you here?" She sat down, composed and steady. "Rashid Bhai," she said, "I need your help to sell my house." His brows furrowed. "Sell your house, but don't your son and his wife live there?" "They do," she replied softly. "But they have forgotten whose roof shelters them." Rashid looked at her, realizing there was more pain behind her calm words than she would ever admit. "Very well," he said finally. "If that's your decision, I'll begin the process." When she returned home, the evening light fell through the curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. Sarah was on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "Where were you, Amy?" she asked carelessly. Salma smiled faintly. "Just visiting an old friend." Sarah didn't bother to ask more. She was busy planning her upcoming birthday party, a grand event she insisted on hosting at her house. She had already invited her friends, ordered decorations, and posted teasers online. "Can't wait to celebrate in my beautiful home, sparkling heart, #grateful, #my space." The words made Salma's lips curve in a quiet, ironic smile. "Your home," she whispered under her breath. Every night, while the couple slept, she reviewed the sale documents. The deal was progressing smoothly. The buyer was ready, the price was fair, and everything was legal. She felt no guilt, only peace. This wasn't vengeance born of hatred. It was justice wrapped in grace. A few days before the party, Rashid called. Salma Baji, the transfer is complete. The payment is cleared. Salma's heart steadied. Thank you, Rashid Bhai. You've done me a great favor. That night, she made dinner as usual, humming softly. Amir and Sarah didn't notice anything unusual. They were too busy discussing party arrangements. Sarah said arrogantly, "Please don't invite your old friends. I want this event to feel classy. You understand, right?" Salma nodded. "Of course, Beta. Don't worry, I understand perfectly." And she did. She understood that kindness was wasted on those who mocked it. She understood that respect must sometimes be taught, not begged for. When Sarah turned away, Salma looked around the house one last time, the home that had held her tears, her laughter, her sacrifices. Soon it would no longer be hers, but neither would it belong to those who disrespected her. As she turned off the lights and walked toward her room, her heart felt lighter than it had in years. Tomorrow would be Sarah's birthday, and the day Sarah would learn the meaning of loss. The morning sun rose over the house with unusual brightness, as if the day itself knew something important was about to happen. The living room buzzed with excitement. Colorful balloons, floral decorations, and trays of food lined the tables. Sarah's birthday party was set to be grand, filled with her stylish friends, music, and laughter. Salma stood quietly in the corner, watching the preparations. She wore a soft beige shawl, her face calm and unreadable. To anyone else, she looked like an old woman just trying not to get in the way. But inside her chest, her heart was steady, strong, and deliberate. By noon, the guests began arriving, greeting Sarah with gifts and flattery. "Your house is beautiful," one friend exclaimed. "You have such great taste." Sarah beamed, soaking in the praise. "Thank you. We've worked hard to make it perfect," she said,